What if our universe is just one of an infinite number? What if there are other worlds beyond the observable cosmos? Worlds with different laws of physics, different life forms, and perhaps different conceptions of God. And if so, a question arises that is both frightening and fascinating. Does each of these universes contain a God? And if so, is it the same God we know as Jesus Christ? Or does each reality have its own God, its own truth, its own revelation? This question is not simply theological. It lies at the intersection of cosmology, metaphysics, philosophy of consciousness, and religious experience. It requires us to go beyond conventional dogma and see faith as a structure capable of existing in many forms, or perhaps as a universal constant, embedded in the very fabric of existence. Before we begin, subscribe so you don't miss future reflections. We'll delve even deeper. Like this post if you resonate with the idea of searching for God beyond the ordinary. Leave a comment. Do you think God exists in every universe? Could Christ be universal, or does each reality have its own path, its own light, its own answer? What is the multiverse? In the scientific community, the term multiverse describes the hypothesis of the existence of multiple universes, each of which may have its own physical laws, constants, and even dimensions. There are several models of the multiverse. Quantum multiverse, based on an interpretation of quantum mechanics, where each possible outcome is realized in a separate branch of reality. Cosmological inflation suggests that inflationary expansion leads to the creation of bubble universes with different parameters. Mathematical multiverse, proposed by Max Tegmark, where each mathematically possible structure is realized as a separate reality. None of these theories have been empirically proven, but they logically follow from the equations of modern physics and cosmology. And if they are correct, then we live not in a single reality, but in one of an infinite number. What place does God occupy in the scientific picture of the world? Science, as a rule, does not operate with the concept of God. It studies patterns, not meanings. However, some scientists, including physicists and philosophers, ask, if the laws of physics are so precise and universal, doesn't this point to intelligent design? Stephen Hawking, in his book, A Brief History of Time, wrote that if we find a theory of everything, we will recognize the mind of God. Frank Tipler proposed the omega point, a hypothetical state in which consciousness encompasses the entire universe, interpreting this as a form of divinity. But if infinite universes exist, a new dilemma arises. Is God the architect of all realities? Or does each reality have its own creator? Religious views: universal or unique God? Christian view: in Christianity, God is the creator of all things, beyond time and space. Jesus Christ is the incarnation of God, who came to our world to save humanity. But if other worlds exist, the question arises, was Christ incarnate in each of them? Some theologians, including C.S. Lewis, have pondered this. In his essay, Religion and Rockets, he wrote, if there are other intelligent beings, perhaps they too have experienced the fall, and God might then have revealed himself to them in another form. This opens up the possibility. Christ is the universal logos, manifesting in each universe in its own way. Or, our history is unique, and other worlds either do not need salvation or have their own forms of revelation. Other religions, a universal God or multiple revelations. Islam. In Islam, God is Allah, one, indivisible, beyond time and space. The Quran states that Allah is the creator of all worlds. Praise be to Allah, the Lord of the worlds. This can be interpreted as a reference to the plurality of creations, perhaps even to other universes. However, Islam emphasizes the uniqueness of the Prophet Muhammad as the seal of the prophets, which may mean that revelation was given specifically to our world. If there are other intelligent beings, were they given their own prophets? Some Islamic theologians admit this possibility, but without making specific statements. Hinduism. Hinduism is one of the most flexible religious systems. It accepts the existence of countless worlds, cycles of time, life forms, and even gods. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, "I am in everything, and everything is in me." This can be interpreted as a pantheistic model. God is a structure of reality, manifesting in different forms. In Hinduism, there is no rigid boundary between God and the world, and this makes it particularly compatible with the idea of a multiverse. Buddhism, especially Mahayana, speaks of countless pure lands, worlds where Buddhas manifest in different forms. This is not exactly theism, but the idea of multiple enlightened beings acting in different realities resonates with the multiverse. Here, God is not a person, but a state of consciousness accessible in any reality. Philosophical arguments: God as structure, as consciousness, as code. The ontological approach: if God is that than which no greater can be conceived, as Anselm of Canterbury wrote, then he must exist in all possible worlds, otherwise he would not be God. Modal logic, for example, that of Alvin Plantinga, asserts, if God's existence is possible, then he exists in all possible worlds. This means that there is a God in every universe, but how he manifests himself depends on the structure of that reality. Cosmological approach: if each universe has a cause for its existence, then this cause must be external to it. This is God, as the first cause, as the necessary being. But if universes are infinite and self-generating, then God may not be an external, but an internal principle, embedded in the very fabric of reality. God is consciousness. Some philosophers, for example, Thomas Nagel, David Chalmers, suggest that consciousness is a fundamental property of being. If this is true, then God may be a universal consciousness that manifests itself in each reality in its own way. This resonates with mystical traditions. God is not an object, but a subject who experiences reality through us. Metaphysics: God as code, as an algorithm, as a structure. God as an information constant. If reality is information, as the theory of digital physics suggests, then God may be an algorithm governing the structure of all possible worlds. This is not a mechanistic God, but an intellectual principle, similar to the Logos in Christianity, Christ as the universal Logos. The Gospel of John says, "In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God." If Logos is a universal principle, then Christ may be a manifestation of this principle in our reality. In other words, he may be different, but with the same essence. This makes Christ not just a historical figure, but a metaphysical bridge between God and creation. The question remains open, and that's wonderful. If there are infinite universes, does God exist in each of them? Science can't answer. Religion offers various models. Philosophy provides tools for reflection. But perhaps the very fact that we ask this question already points to the presence of God, because the pursuit of meaning, truth, and transcendence is the manifestation of the divine within us. And if Christ is the Logos, then he can be present in every universe, but in each in its own way, as light, as code, as love, as sacrifice, as a question. What do you think? Share your thoughts in the comments.